Hi, welcome to RamTV6. This is Tara Lee Woodall, and we are here with Beck from ASU. And what department are you out of?
I'm with the Center for Innovation and Teaching and Research.
Okay, and basically what does that do?
We focus on faculty development, so we mostly work exclusively with faculty. Sometimes we'll do staff and even work with students as well, doing training for online material for the classroom, in the classroom, hardware, software. Basically do all the research for more innovative and creative ways to deliver technology, deliver learning through technology.
And you're an expert on what you call open source technology.
I don't mind using the word expert, but that's okay.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of open source. What open source software is, most time when people say open source, they're referring to software. And what that means is the underlying code that the developers create is open. People can actually see the code, they can download it, they can share it, they can take it and add to it, take away from it, repackage it, rebrand it, use it elsewhere, which is in contrast to the closed source or proprietary software is software you don't get to look at. You normally purchase it and you have to, I mean, it's against the law to reverse engineer and look at it.
You run it as is.
Yeah, you take it, use it, you sign that end-user license agreement when you click, yes, I agree to use this software. And that's kind of the gist of open source versus proprietary. The open source, it's free as in price. It's free as in price. You don't have to pay for it. It's also free, more importantly, it's also free as in freedom, meaning that you are free to view the source code, change it, modify it, share it, give it to other people. And that's the beautiful thing about open source itself. The open source mindset versus, again, proprietary software. So yeah, that's been my passion. As of recently, the past 2 years, two and a half years, I've been using it more exclusively. My operating system is Ubuntu Linux. I don't use Windows anymore. I don't use Mac unless I have to for other training purposes. So I've been trying to be more creative and innovative using open source software versus the proprietary software. And the direction of where I've, I guess, come from and gone to, my change since I've been working here at ASU for about 3 years now, happened with a faculty member who was going to create a graphic for a distribution map for animals, and it was a biology faculty member, and they asked me to come help them create this map and graphic for publication. And so the only copy of Adobe Illustrator that they had access to was in the computer labs. So we had to go up there. That's a $700 piece of software. So I met her up in the lab, and we started working on her graphic, and she was kind of frustrated because she couldn't go use it in her office computer because she didn't have a copy of the license, and she asked our department if we could buy it, and we don't have any money either, kind of budget cuts. So I did a little researching and ran across Inkscape, and Inkscape is a vector-based program for line art, drawing, creating graphics. Has a big community following, an open source community. There's some open source foundations that help support some of these products, but we got that. We installed it on her computer in her office. She was able to take it home and install it there. She created her graphic, sent it to publication, and it worked well for her. Yeah. So from that, she was able to give it to students, and we showed some of the students how to use it. So they went to publication with some of their work, and that was my turning point as far as at an educational environment of utilizing open source to solve the problem. In this case, she wasn't able to work on her project at her time. She had to go to the lab to use the software in there, and you can't give Adobe Illustrator to somebody else because it's a license. You buy it, and only one person can use that on one machine. You can't move it to another machine without deleting the other copy. So the advantage is, being able to give it to other people. That really started turning me more onto the open source and the idea. And the more I started diving into what else is out there, what else can I do with this open source? I went and got went and downloaded Ubuntu Linux. I had an old laptop. I'm like, well, what is this Linux stuff? What is this open source, operating system? Windows and Mac. What's Linux? And so I did that and downloaded it, installed it on my laptop, and all of a sudden it was a whole new world of computing, I guess, a whole new
Way
set
to
of
use
tools.
your computer.
Right, yeah, a whole new set of tools at my fingertips. And I was actually dual booting my other laptop at the time. And so dual booting means you can restart your computer and go into Windows, or you restart and you go into Linux. And so when I was learning the whole process of a Linux desktop environment, I would, when I get hung up on something, I would just reboot the computer and go into Windows and do something else. And so I slowly started learning more and more about Linux and the operating system itself, and started using Windows less and less. And so I finally completely got rid of Windows and made myself go all open source. With that, it wasn't until my pivotal moment, and I'm not really an emotional guy per se, but I literally shed a tear. I got teary-eyed with open source, and this might sound weird, but this was kind of my pivotal moment. It was like a movie, you know, in the movies where they had that aha moment and something just dawns on them. It's life-changing. I was looking for some video games for my nieces and nephews, and I ran across one called Riley, R-I-L-I. A little kid game. It's a little toy train, like a little wooden toy train. You just, you drive little tracks, and you change the track, and you get other cabooses, or get longer and longer. You try not to run into yourself. So I'm sitting here playing this game, and I'm having fun. It's fun. It gets a little challenging, and I passed level 1, and so the bonus question popped up, and it totally. This was the life-changing experience for me. It really was. When I realized what this game was all about, the bonus question pops up, and it asks you, what I'm assuming this is a little kid game, and it asks, in the International Declaration of Human Rights, where does this article fall? And it's saying humans have the right to exist. Humans have the right to not be in slavery. So humans have the right. And I'm thinking, what just happened? Where am I at? You know, I'm here playing this little game, and all of a sudden, I'm getting exposed to Declaration of Human Rights. I didn't even know there was International Declaration of Human Rights. And literally, I got teary-eyed. I'm like, that's what it's about. That's what this open source movement is about, is humanity. It's about sharing and collaborating for the greater good, good of the human race. And there's not a huge marketing campaign out there for open source, for Linux, for all the other software applications that are out there. Most of them are people, some of them are just, you know, programming in their mom's basement. You know, some of these are hackers that are just programming. Others are backed by commercially funded applications, and some are based off grants. So that's been that's kind of my journey of where I've come from, and realization that software and the technology, the open source mindset, is so much more than just free software. There's been studies, research done a couple of years ago, and it was some of the Fortune 500 companies in the UK and in the United States, the bigger tier companies. There was a survey done of them using open source software, and the movement was majority of them, all of them had a plan to, or either were already using open source software in their workplace. And I'm thinking, this was a few years ago when I started using software, I'm like, oh, well, they did it to save money, because it costs so much money to run these other packages. And the number one reason that they listed was because of quality. They switched over for quality, which is kind of took me by surprise. Like, this is about quality. And the more I start using it, the more you see that Linux operating system is everybody uses every day. They just don't realize it. Facebook uses Linux.
And your phones now?
Yeah, it's cell phones. So the Android operating system is based off Linux as well. You travel on the airlines. The airlines are running Linux operating systems. Your refrigerator. There's some the new fancy refrigerators. Some of those kind of things are running Linux-based.
And they're using it
devices.
overseas now to get children laptops.
Oh, one laptop per child. That's another beautiful example of utilizing technology and software in a educational environment, and to give to those that need it. So the one laptop per child initiative has been around for a couple of years. They're very rugged little laptops, and they have a little handle. They flip up. They've got little antennas that pop up on them. Some of these laptops they're given to countries that don't even have electricity, and so these are hand cranked. Some hand crank them. It charges the battery. Some are foot paddle powered, or some even solar powered, and so they're getting the power from whatever source. But again, some of these countries don't have internet, and these laptops actually network for the students. And the project is the student gets it, they take it home, it's theirs to keep, and it is some of the first time that some of these families have gotten to see technology and reading and learning, and they get to hear and see these things as speakers, and so the families, the parents are getting to get educated as well, and because of these kind of initiatives. And that's running what's called Sugar Linux. It's a award-winning kid operating system designed for kids from anywhere from about 5 years old to 6th grade. And to put things in perspective, I talked about Ubuntu Linux, I talked about Sugar Linux, but you have Microsoft, you have Mac, which people think those are the only two that exist, but there's thousands of Linux distributions that are out there. Because of that whole share model, somebody takes the source code and they like this part, but they don't like that part, so they make their own fork, and there's this version of Linux. Well, if you like it, you can download and use it. If you like something else, I carry mine, here's my keychain, and this is my 4 gig jump drive, and I've got a version of Ubuntu Linux on here, but it's called Dream Studio. So I can pop this in almost any computer. I can reboot the computer and boot off of this thing and have access to graphic design programs, audio editing, video editing,
and that
DJ music.
Thing right there.
This little thing right here. It's actually encoded to be a bootable live, what they call live distribution. I can boot off of that and have access to all those pieces of software. I mean, guitar programs and piano programs to type music out.
But it's not freeware or shareware.
Oh, right. Okay. So that's a good point. It's not, people normally mistake that, freeware, they call it, open source. That's freeware. That's shareware. The reason why I don't like, there's an argument about it, but the reason why I don't like to call it freeware or shareware is because back in the 90s when it was more popular, you had a lot of those discs and people would install this program. And normally there were you would try them out, right? So if you like it, then you got to turn around and buy it. If you didn't like it, you can uninstall it, or you could give it to your friend and let them try it out. So that's where the shareware came into place. But most of that software was closed source. You couldn't learn how it was made. You couldn't go back and change it up. You couldn't add to it, make it fit your needs. And that's the difference, again, between the open source, proprietary, and open source and closed source. So that's why I don't call it freeware or shareware and refer to it as open source software. Some people call it free and open source software, FOSS, but I don't just call it open source software.
So here in the United States, how is it helping, kids in need that don't have access to the, financially to the other programs?
Right. So there's different pockets around, I guess in the U.S. One project that was my first experience of seeing it in action, I guess, was Ken Stark with the Helios project down in Austin. And this was a number of years. They've donated, I think, 1,200 computers to needy families, kids that didn't have access to technology. They would take donated computers from all over Austin. They had little drop-off spots. And instead of that computer going to a landfill or just sitting and collecting dust in somebody's basement, they take it, they format all the information that's on there, they install Linux, and they give this laptop or this computer to a kid who wouldn't have access to it anyway. So the Helios project is kind of what got us started. Myself and another coworker, we decided let's do that here in San Angelo, Texas, and we came up with the TexOS initiative, the TexOS project, and TexOS, texos.org, and we decided to put that together and work with the community development initiative here, part of ASU, that focuses on community outreach and community anything that needs developing is kind of what they focus on. And with them, we got partnered up with a number of nonprofits in town, CRIO, with NAACP, with Southside Lions, with there's one more I think I'm leaving off, but a number of nonprofits. And with them we decided, well, let's get an application out there, let's get kids involved, and we had them fill out a few things, let them submit it, and we've just selected 15 students who will be part of our Project One, what we're calling Project One, and that will be a 3-week session and allow them to come in, and we'll do different training. There'll be 6 sessions at a time, or broken across 6 sessions over 3 weeks, and learn the software, learn how to install it, learn everything about the computer itself, install productivity software that would help them with their schoolwork, research software, scientific software, all that kind of things. We're going to install that, show them how to use it. At the end of the session, they'll actually get to take the computer home with them and use it at home, and use it for games or whatever else they want to use it for, education. So we're excited about that project.
Oh, cool. Is there Anything else with the open source that you want to
Anything else with
hit
open source?
on?
My background, I used to teach for 6.5 years at a technical college. I taught Adobe, all Adobe products, Adobe Photoshop, Illustrator, Premiere, After Effects. We did some 3D work with 3D Studio Max, photography, and through that, my background, I already had a background in digital imaging. But through that, now that I'm doing faculty development and focusing on other educational needs, I wish I could go back and do it again, because the software packages that I use now, I use a program called GIMP, which is GIMP, GNU Image Manipulation Program. So instead of Photoshop to do rastered images, JPEGs, PNGs, those kind of things, I use a program called GIMP, and it's very popular in the open source community. They use it for a lot of different applications. Inkscape, already mentioned, using Vector, so instead of Adobe Illustrator. And also Blender, which is one of my favorite open source projects. The Blender community is one of the most active open source communities out there. People all around the world, 24/7, are creating 3D animations, models, objects for industrial things, for just entertainment value, for video games. And the open source community itself, the Blender Foundation, is, I think they're out of Amsterdam, but they have movie projects, open source movie projects. And so every year or so, they'll have another batch of creative people go fly there and start developing a new animated short video, or some kind of short video. Big Buck Bunny, Centil Project, Centil are great little animated shorts. And as they're creating these new movies, they're working on the software. So the Blender software itself, they keep adding to and tweaking and changing. It gets rolled back out to the community uses it, and it's just this beautiful life cycle of the open source community. Literally, there's what's called nightly builds, and if you want to stay on the cutting edge of technology, you can go grab a nightly build, which means that the programmers were programming that day, they hit submit, it uploads to the server that night, and then next morning you download it, you've got the latest and greatest cutting edge technology. So it's a beautiful cycle. As far as saving taxpayers money, utilizing, I would love to see it more in K through 12 especially, and instead of spending so much money on proprietary software, if we could, even grant money, even if we could take other grant money that pays for these projects, and they buy computers, they buy software, it's proprietary software. The taxpayers never get to use that. They never see it. They're paying for it.
Same thing over and over again.
Yeah, and they just keep, and it's kind of like you're wasting your money. It's not a good return on your investment. So the open source community, if you build up better developers and designers and content subject matter experts, and let that piece of software grow into something awesome, you are tapping into other open source programmers around the world. You actually get more bang for your buck. Then you can actually take that software and say, hey, taxpayer, you know what? Appreciate what you've done to us. Here's the software. Take it and use it. And that's something you can't do with proprietary software. So K through 12, all these other, any type of educational or governmental institute, I think would greatly improve, increase, and benefit everybody, more bang for your buck, by going with open source in education, because of all the learning tools that are out there for education. And the more we build up other universities, we build up an open source infrastructure and then share that knowledge with other universities. So now they're benefiting from the software as well. Mm-hmm. And you're exponentially tapping into, you're making more bang for your buck, and you're impacting more people's lives with open source versus proprietary. Okay, so something else about it's hard for other people to understand the Linux side of things. And when I tell them I've never, in the past 2-3 years, I've not used virus software. I don't know virus software, no malware, no adware. I don't worry about any of those things. The Linux operating system is more secure by design. Whereas Windows, if you're at home and you're working on something, definitely at home, you're logged in as an administrator at all times. So if you see little dancing kittens and you want to click on it, you just installed a virus and you didn't know it. That's how having those rights of full-blown privilege administrative rights in any user, that's a problem. The Linux operating system is just overall made more secure by design in the sense that you have to be root user before you can install something. You have to tell it, yes, I want to do that. And this is security feature, is what it amounts to. And so that's another really good a point I like to make about the Linux operating system is you don't worry about that kind of viruses. And
so you have a little kid sitting there, clicking away and doing this.
And they
don't
could
anything.
accidentally install something that they shouldn't install. And with the Linux environment, that's a lot harder to do if they don't know that root password. So it's not saying that there's not Linux viruses out there, but again, just the way the operating system itself works, it's negated because of just the overall infrastructure of the hardware itself, software itself.
That saves a lot of money too.
That does save a lot of money.
Well, Brian, we thank you for being here. Thank you at home for watching. Be sure to tune in Monday through Friday on RamTV6.